Of the RNC Youth Advisory Council and author of One Generation Away, Brilyn Hollyhand, as well as student at George Washington University and vice chair of the GW College Republicans, Kieran Laffey. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. The last time you were both here, you appeared on Wake Up America for this panel. President Biden was the nominee, and things have changed a lot. Clearly, that turned real fast. Brilyn, let's start with you. Harris is seeing much more energy than Biden was from young people, and recent polling shows that she could take 52% of the youth vote to Trump's 36%. What are you seeing from your age group when it comes to Harris?
Well, we're seeing through this honeymoon that's going on right now with Kamala Harris. That's what this is. I sat up on a school night to watch last night's speeches, and I'm going to tell you, I was pretty disappointed. We were promised joy all week, but instead I heard nothing but hate and further division. I saw more cringy attempts to reach my generation of first-time voters, but I've got a simple message for the DNC this morning. No amount of rap stars or viral memes will convince my peers to vote for you when you have zero policy stances and no plan to fix the same nation you've broken. We have one party saying, yeah, let's ignore the past 3 years that we've run the country into the ground. But if you elect us, we pinky promise we're going to fix this mess. And the other party promising this prosperous future for the nation by actually making America great again and revitalizing this country for my friends and I to grow up and raise families in. The choice is simple this November. And regardless of what sham circus they try to put on in Chicago, we're seeing through this.
Harris said at a campaign rally in Wisconsin that she'll bring down the cost of groceries, cap them in January when she takes office if she's elected. But, I mean, that means there's another 5 months, roughly, of what we're seeing right now. Kieran, Harris may have the support, but she's facing a big problem with young progressive Democrats because of her position on Israel and Palestine. Outside of the DNC, that we're seeing all of these protesters violently clashing with police. Do you see that this is going to impact her young voter turnout?
Look, I think you have to say it's going to. I mean, look at the DNC. There's more protesters outside than people inside the convention center. They estimated 100,000 of them. And then I think you look at the primary, all those uncommitted voters up in the Midwest. Look, I think the message that us as Republicans have to push, we've got to cut through the noise of the media. Look, I know it's difficult. I saw a independent watchdog group publish that 84% of the press for Vice President Harris has been all positive in the past 4 weeks. Look, we got to cut through it and look at the policies. Economically, they're hurting Gen Z voters. The border policies directly hurt Gen Z voters. And the international policy has, hurt everyone in our country. So I think you got to look at the country and ask yourself, do you want 4 more years of these policies? And I think if you do that, the answer is very clear.
Yeah, they can try to distract from the issues, but it's clear that a lot of people are impacted by what is going to be on the ballot come November. Brilyn, the other issue for Democrats is voter turnout. The United States has one of the lowest youth voter turnouts in the world, but they also use mail-in ballots, and early voting starts soon. Do you see this year being any different with the narrative about saving democracy?
Well, I think the same party that's claiming to be the party of democracy installed this candidate in a coronation without letting zero primary voters actually vote for her. So that's going to be a very hard bill to sell, still claiming to be the party of democracy. Listen, I think the economy is really what's going to get my generation to turn out in large droves and historic droves this November. And let's talk about Kamala Harris's plan for that. She announced last week that she's going to do these price caps, which I think is completely misguided. Obviously, Kamala Harris slept through her entire history class in high school and college, because I was taught that the last time that we attempted to do price caps in America, it failed miserably. It was under Jimmy Carter, and he attempted to do these price caps on gasoline prices. Now, if you remember, there's these long lines, disastrous lines, these images of these that I've seen in history books of how bad price caps were then. This is going to be bread lines in a Kamala Harris administration if she attempts to do price caps today. The result of what we're seeing isn't price gouging. It's the direct result of her administration's failed policies with the economy. My generation's seen through this, and price caps aren't going to work. It's her attempt of a socialist takeover. And when you have AOC and Bernie Sanders on the convention stage praising her, we truly see how radical she is, and my generation sees through that.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders clearly was putting down the socialism speech last night. Kieran, we're just 76 days away from the election. Is there anything that Trump and Republicans can do better here with the voters in order that if there's some maybe that are on the fence? Is there something the Republicans can do better to try to sway them?
Of course, and I think we got to stop the personal attacks and just talk about the policies. And I watched the convention last night. I think it was 147 times I read that the name Trump was brought up. I think we have to point out Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 out of 16 years. no way, shape, or form are all the issues that we're seeing today Trump's fault. It's just plain and simple. So let's talk about policies. Independent voters, I'm around a lot of them. They like the Trump policies more because they benefited them more over the past 4 years. More money in your pockets, more prosperity for our country. So let's talk about the policies, and I think it's worked for us in the past. Let's get it done, and if we do that, no question in my mind that we win this in November.
That's what we saw there in Michigan with Trump, where he says law enforcement, that's where his focus was, going back to the issues at hand here come November. Thank you both for being here, Brilyn Hollyhand and Kieran Laffey. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Have a good week.
Thank you. From one important demographic to another, we are taking